Hello, everyone. Welcome to our inventory physical cycle counting with Agility webinar today. Today, we're going to take a look at the WiSys Agility tools and how it can help you streamline your entry and verification of your physical inventory with Macola. My name is Kathy Russell, and I will be doing this presentation today. And helping me today is Jim Heidinger. Many of you have maybe talked to him on the phone, so he's going to be helping me today and assisting. So let's get started with this. The inventory physical cycle counting works with Macola physical inventory. Your batches are still created in Macola, and the posting still happens in Macola. Where WiSys comes in is that we allow you to streamline your tag entry with the Agility mobile tool. We have different applications that you can use there to enter in your tags by bin, by item, by tag, and make the entry of that process very quick and easy. You don't need to create extra tags, because if you are scanning something that does not have a tag, or that tag has already been counted, it will automatically generate that extra tag. Then, after you've entered all of your extra tags, the next step will be that you will use the Agility Explorer application, where you can review all of your tags, serial numbers, pallets, look at all your variance reportings by quantity and by dollar, look at your uncounted tags and see how those are processed and make sure that they're all okay. Those are in the Agility Explorer grids, and there you can very easily export those grids out to Excel or to PDF if you need to save those off for reporting. WiSys Agility also allows you to add a serial layer and a pallet layer. So when you count in Macola, your serialized items really aren't checked or counted, and there is no pallet layer. So the things that WiSys brings to the table for that is your serial layer is when you're doing your counting, you do actually scan all of your serial numbers, and we track those serial numbers, and then we can add or delete or verify that those serial numbers are correct, and then we will adjust them accordingly to what the count is in your system. And we add that layer and a serial post to help you track and adjust that serial layer. The same thing with pallets. If you're using the WiSys pallet inventory pallet management, we do a physical count for the pallet layer. Same thing, you can do a count by your pallet layers, and we will track that pallet layer for you and then give you the ability to see variances by pallet, adjusting your pallets as you need, and then posting that pallet layer. All of that happens before you post it in Macola. You adjust those layers down below, and then you post that into your Macola inventory so that all of that is matched and married up together. Today what we're going to do is we're going to actually walk through this inventory physical cycle count process. In here, we're going to take a look at creating that Macola batch. How do you create the Macola batch? You may have that process in place. I know that we have people who aren't using the cycle count or the inventory count today and want to be. We have people who've been doing it for years and years, and they're just looking for, some more information. So this is a little bit for everybody. We're going to walk through that batch create, talk about how you create those batches, because that is still done in Macola. And then we're going to open up Agility Mobile, and we're going to look at the applications that you can use to do tag entry. So as I said before, you can do that tag entry by bin, you can do it by item, you can do it by tag. Tag will also let you adjust them. And then if you're palletized, you can do a pallet physical inventory also. Once we have entered in all of those tags with our scanner, we're then going to open up Agility Explorer, and we are going to take a look at the review of our cycle count tag status. And we're going to make sure that everything is counted. And we will look at our tags not counted. we have that ability to mark them as updated if needed, and then we'll take a look at all of our pre-post audit lists. So we have our audit list pre-post by variance, we have it by cost, we've got problems to review and variances by serial and by pallet. All of those are out there. And then once you have gone through all of your pre-posts and you have verified that everything is okay, your next step is then how do you do the posting? So we'll take a quick look at what do I do when I need to post serialized because I'm using serialization? How do I post pallets? And then once I have the serial and the pallet layers done, if I'm using them, then I post in Macola. Now I skip serial and pallet layer, of course, if I'm not using them and go straight to the posting of Macola there. So as we go through this, the first thing that we're going to take a look at is we're going to look at the batches in Macola and how we create those batches. So they have two different ways to create your pallets, or your batches, I'm sorry. And that is you can do a physical wall-to-wall count, one end to the other, where basically you're going to come in, you're going to create a batch for that particular location. When we look at extra tags, you do have an entry for extra tags here on both the physical count and also on the cycle count, but you do not need to make extra tags when you're using WiSys to do your counting. If you do, it's not mission critical. You can wipe those extra tags out in Macola just like you do, but there's no need for them, so there's no reason to waste tag numbers. So your number of extra tags on either of those screens would be 0. And then, of course, you control, how do you sort it? Do you want to include 0 quantity, exclude? That's up to you. When we do that, the next thing we'll do is go create a cycle count tag where we put in the, your batch ID, and you can have various different batches, and you do it by location. You then have the ability to create smaller batches that might be by bin. So maybe if you're cycle counting, every day, once a week, once a month, on demand, whatever that is, you're creating smaller batches of inventory selection to be able to count those in tiny things and cycle throughout that. Now, that might be that you do a bin range because you're counting an area. You also have the opportunity to do it by your product category. And then by vendor, ABC code, and cycle count code. So those are your options on how to create your batch. And when you're doing that, of course, how you generate your batches is up to you. And that's kind of, you have to think about your product and what it is that you will be cycle counting. So for instance, if I am a manufacturer of appliances and I have Whirlpool and I have Samsung, it may be that I have a product category that represents Whirlpool and I have another category that represents Samsung. But I have a cycle count code of R assigned to all my refrigerators. And then I have a cycle count code of D assigned to all my dishwashers. When I go to do my cycle count, it may be that I need to count all of my Whirlpool items. So I would put my categories, my product category here, just the Whirlpool category. I wouldn't use the cycle count code. But let's just say that instead of doing all of Whirlpool, what I really need to do is I need to cycle count all of my refrigerators. And all of my refrigerators have a cycle count code of R across all of my products. So I could do all product categories and choose a cycle count code of R, which would just let me count my refrigerators. Or if I need to count my Samsung items and I just want Samsung refrigerators, I would put my product category as Samsung and my cycle count code of R, and I would just get Samsung refrigerators. So knowing how your Macola is set up and what you have in there is how you're going to create your batches for whatever works for your business. It could be that maybe you manufacture shoes, and I have a cycle count on sandals for S for summer and B for on boots for a W for winter, so that I can cycle count code my winter shoes in the winter time and go through and make sure my inventory is very accurate and not care about my summer things, or vice versa. So you kind of have to figure out what's the best way to do cycle counts for your organization. And there is a way to set the ABC code in Macola. You can also set the cycle count code on all of the items. And one of the things that we've added that I'll show you is we have an edit field where it shows you all of your items, and you can manually manipulate your cycle count code in a grid to kind of help it manage it a little bit easier from there. So the next thing that we're going to do when we create our batch is we're going to take a look at our number of extra tags. We said 0. Generally, you don't want to create extra tags, so you would always say 0. How you sort them is up to you. When you look at the cycle count batch creation, it says use frozen quantities in the calculation. If you look at our documentation, we recommend that that isn't checked. It really doesn't matter if you check it or not check it. We have customers that do both. They will select the use freeze, and then the others will not. The biggest thing to keep in mind, though, is that you don't want to transact inventory on items that are in this cycle count batch that you're doing until it is complete and you've posted it through. We have seen a lot of customers who have had issues with the fact that they go out and try to transact while they're in the middle of a cycle count of items that are on here, and they have problems. If you check it or uncheck it, it doesn't matter if you're not transacting on those items. It's up to you if you show the computed quantity on hand, and you're going to create your batch in Macola, whether you do it in Macola or you are using WiSys. So for us, let's go on ahead and take a look at the actual product. So I am going to close my PowerPoint here, and I have a virtual open, and I'm going to open up my screen here. I do have Macola open here because, again, we're not doing the whole inventory process. We're using the Macola batch creation, and we use the Macola posting to actually post that. In here, I'm going to create my batch just like we discussed. So here I'm going to create a cycle count select. And I'm going to give it a batch ID. That is totally up to you. I am going to use the date. So I'm going to put 18/10/25. And I have a cycle count code. I'm going to use cycle counts for my batches. And I'm going to identify that in here that it's G batch. I want all items that are in this batch here. I'm going to do my location of MA. I want all bins, and then I want all categories, all vendors, just various different ways that you can filter this. I need all ABC codes, but I'm going to do a cycle count code of G. And then I'm going to come on down here, and I don't need to edit. These are optional things, your freeze date, if you want that entered. I don't need 0 or any extra tags. I am going to uncheck the use frozen quantities in calculation, and I am going to show the computed quantities on my sheet here. And then I'm going to just click OK, and I will create my B batch here. So I'm going to print this up to screen. And there is my batch. I can see the items that I am going to count in here, and I will get ready to count those tags. Now I do have a couple of other batches. I went ahead and I created them because it's the same thing. So I have a P batch, and I also have an S batch here. Alrighty. So that is creating your batches in Macola, just as if you were doing the counting in Macola. The next thing that you're going to do, though, is now I'm going to utilize WiSys to help you streamline this process. If you, in Agility Mobile here, I'm going to go on ahead. I could start this in a skin view. I'm running the virtual mobile desktop application. So the handhelds that you guys use, you also have the ability, of course, to run this on your desktop and to use the exact same tool on a desktop should you need to run it virtually. I can put a skin around it and make it look like it's a handheld, or I'm just going to run it in normal mode. So it just shows me the screen just like what's on a handheld. So I have to log in. Whoops. And I'm going to select my company. And you can see here that I have my Agility mobile screen here. And what I have permissions to get to, I have a cycle count by bin, I have a count by item, I have one by tag, and I have a physical inventory. We've also added a recount by item. Tag is in there to do that. And then of course you have your multi-level view should they need it. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I am going to count my my G badge for my cycle count. So I'm going to send my users out there and they're going to go out to take their batch and go out to that particular section. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the cycle count by item. Now, these are doing the exact same thing. It's just a matter of the presentation of what's leading the count. So am I going out and I'm going to find an item and then I'm going to do a count? So it kind of depends on how you're doing your cycle count. If this is a random one and I want someone to go count an item, I may have a batch set up by, item that's going to drive them through, and they're going to find all of the bins that go with this. So they're going to scan the item first, and then they're going to find the bin, and they're going to scan it, and then they will put in their quantities. If I'm doing maybe a cycle count every day and I go to a section of my inventory, of my bin inventory, it may be that the bins are going to drive that and I want them to go walk to my section, scan a bin, scan the item, scan my count. So which one you use is kind of up to you, and you have the ability to use all of them. So it could be what it is that you're doing for that count, which form that you use. So you may have a couple of people that do cycle counting, and that's the form they use. You have other people that go out and do random counts, and that's the form they use. And it may be that your managers or you as a supervisor or something like that, maybe that you use a tag inventory to, do adjustments, or they went and they checked it and they're going to override it or something like that. Or they could physically do it by tag also. So the first thing that I'm going to do, I've opened up my cycle count by item, and it's going to ask me to, what's my batch ID? So lots of times people will make little barcode scanners so that your users have a little batch ID that they can scan. So I have a little one here, and I'm going to scan my batch ID. The next thing I'm going to do is I am going up by item here, and I'm going to scan in my item. And my first item here I've got is a keyboard. And oops, did I get it? Hold on. Let's see if I'm getting that again. I got my keyboard. So I scanned my barcode in front of my item. It got my keyboard, and it wants to know what's the bin. So now I've scanned my bin, and it's pulled up that it's tag 649. And what is my quantity for that keyboard? So in here, I'm going to go count it, and let's say I counted there's 98. So they're going to hit 98, and they're going to click count. All right, so that's one way that you can do that. And then I'm going to come in here and clear. They would hit their clear, and I'm going to come to my next item. Now this item is not bin for me. I'm walking up, and I'm going to scan my brake pads. Let's see, does it not like brake pads? Item number not found. Oh, that's because I didn't type it properly. How about that? Okay, well, because my barcode isn't correct, I'm going to do a lookup. And here's my brake pads. And so you also on the desktop, if you're running the virtual, you can type it in, you can look it up, and they can do that on the handheld too, but ideal, they would scan. So I would scan that in. You can see that there is no bin. It's not bin. I'm scanning by item, and that bin number is hidden. And it wants to know, out of my brake pads, how many do I have? So I have 628 that I've counted, and I'm going to count that. And that's one way you can use the cycle count by item. I'm going to close the cycle count by item, and this time I'm going to open up the cycle count by bin. Actually, I'm going to go back into item because I have two non-binned items. And if I try to count that non-binned with a bin, it's going to not let me. So let's put in my next item, which is a clamp. And there's my clamp, and I have 2,315, and I'm going to count them. Now I'm going to go on ahead and close this. And I'm going to open up the cycle count by bin. Same form, just in a different presentation. First thing I need to do, what batch am I working on? Scan my batch. Then what bin am I taking a look at here? I am going to my next item that's binned, and this is chain XT. Oh, yes, it is. Let's see if I typed it right. Whoops, I'm sorry, I'm scanning my item number instead of my bin. I need to scan my bin, because what bin am I at? And now when I'm at this bin, what are my items that are in this bin? Well, the first item that's in here is, of course, my chain XT. And I'm going to scan my chain XT and how many items are in that particular bin. I'm going to go on ahead and say that there are, let's see, I don't remember how many I have. So I think we have 990. Now, one of the things, if you guys have been using WiSys for a long time, we do have a bit of an issue in here. I'm going to count this, and this is allowing it to create bins outside of the batch. So we know that we have worked with Macola trying to figure out if you are going to scan bins outside of the batch. And one of the things that we have done is we have changed, for instance, if I'm going to try to scan a bin here, and then I'm going to scan my item again. And actually, I think I have this bin set up for this one. When you are counting a bin outside of a batch, it is going to come up and give you an error that says that that particular bin doesn't exist. So I don't have one. I'm going to close this quick. This will be a little easier here. So I'm going to go on ahead and scan this bin. I'm going to scan my chain XT again. And then I'm going to scan just a different bin. And you'll see that it's going to pop up on there that it says, this guy is not part of this batch, and he is not allowed for entry. And the reason that we've done this and we've added this in here is that we do have times when, for some reason, we've worked with Macola trying to figure out why. If you are adding in a bin that did not exist as part of that, and it creates an extra tag for that, when Macola goes and they post that, it gets confused. It doesn't do it all the time. There is no rhyme or reason. Sometimes it works fine. Sometimes it doesn't work fine. So we put this in here to actually stop you from doing that posting. We've had many customers who've requested this. They don't want their people out there creating new bins anyway when they don't know where the product goes. So this has been a common tailoring that we have done, but because sometimes there are issues with that, we also put it in there. If you are a customer who has scanned items and you allow your users to create bins and you've posted without having an issue with bins outside of the batch, and you have a problem with this being on when you do an update, let me know. We can certainly take that off. But I wanted to let you know that this is a change that has come out with 567.1. So you will find that it's different, and it may be that would work for you and you want it off because it always has in the past. And if, not, this is going to happen. Now, we've asked several customers who they do find stuff with bins outside of the batch, and how do they handle that? And every company is a little bit different. Some of them will say it doesn't belong there, so they pick it up, put it where it belongs, and they count it in there. Others will go on ahead and they'll write it down, and after the physical inventory, they will do a manual adjustment for that later. It's kind of up to you for that policy and procedure of what it is that you set there. But that is in place right now, and that's a change with that latest version. So I'm gonna go on ahead and I'm gonna close out of here. And that is our items here. that are 4 items in our G batch here. So we have counted all of those. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I have a batch out here of items that are palletized. If I am using the pallet inventory, I want to go out and I want to count my physical pallets. I'm counting my inventory by pallet versus one by one. So I'm going to go on ahead here, and I have a pallet physical inventory. And I have a P batch that I'm going to go on ahead and scan here. And it wants to know my bin number for my palletized inventory here. And I'm going to walk up and I'm going to scan my bin. If it's going to let me scan here. And then it wants to know the package number. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to scan my package because I'm scanning my license plate on top of my package. I can get it to scan here. There it goes. And it wants to know how many I have in that particular bin there. So let's see. I happen to have in this bin, I went and I counted my 48 items. Oops. And I'm going to count that. And now I'm going to go scan the license plate on my next one. Oh, except that is the only one that I have in that bin. So I'm going to walk to my next bin. So I clear up and I'm going to walk to my next bin here. And I am going to scan that bin number. I have a ship bin here that I'm going to scan. And then I'm going to scan the license plate on my pallet there for that bin. And I am going to count the items that are in that particular bin. So let's see, I have counted 18 of them. And next I'm going to, I have another one in there. This is a lotted item also, so I am scanning, it's pulling up that information. So I have another one in my bin here, so I'm gonna scan that particular pallet label or LPN, whatever you guys call that. And my count for that one is 25. I'm gonna count 26. So I counted 26, there's actually that much sitting on my pallet. And I'm going to go on ahead and count those. And then I have one more bin, one more pallet that's sitting there in another bin. So I'm going to go on ahead and scan that. And my package ID for that one is scanning my license plate. It's not scanning. There it goes. And in that particular bin, I have counted 25 on that pallet. So I'm going to go on ahead and count that. So that is my pallet inventory. And let's say I just counted 25 on there, but really, whoops, there was really only 24. And so what I can do is I can come in here and I can fix that in my tag entry if that were the case. Whoops. So I'm going to go on ahead and close here. And I'm going to open up my count tag here. And that happens to be tag number that's in my batch. So I'll scan my batch and try to scan my batch. And I'm going to enter in my tag. Now I could do a lookup. You'll notice here there's a lookup here. I also have a tag finder here. Now, this item happens to be a serialized item, so I could, if I'm doing this lookup here, I could very easily just scan in my item. And hold on here, let me find my item. And I could do a lookup on this particular bin, and I can scan that bin. And if I'm the administrative person, I can just look it up also, or I can type it in if I know. This is my pop away. I can see this is tag 640 and there's 25. So I can do a lookup here. I can also see the lot. I'm gonna go on ahead and close this. It takes me right back there. I can do a serial lot history here. So if I wanted to look up tag 640, and oops, I know, and I could do a serial lot history here. Actually, it's looking, I'm not serialized. So anyhow, so here is I counted 25, but I really want to make changes to that, and I'm going to go on ahead. I'm going to count it short. And so I'm going to adjust that, which it popped up and gave me the message and said it is going to overwrite my tag quantity. So I'm going to choose count, and it's going to overwrite that tag quantity. And I'm going to close that. So there are 4 different forms that you can use with your scanners to go out there and enter in your physical cycle counts very easily on the floor at that particular time. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to count really quick a serialized item in a serial batch. So I'm going to go on ahead and I'm going to, this item does happen to be binned. So I am going to walk over, of course, to my item. And I'm going to go in by bin. And alrighty, I'm going to scan my bin, which happens to be 181025-S. I could type that in. Then what bin am I in for that particular item? I'm walking up, it's bin A124, so I'm going to scan my bin, and then I'm going to scan my item. And here I'm counting some monitors, and this is a serialized item. So the first thing it's going to do is ask me, I'm going to have to scan the items. So I am going to scan my items here. I misplaced my barcodes. So I'm going to scan this barcode. And it's going to count 1. And I'm going to scan the next one as I'm counting them. And count. And I have now scanned all of my serialized items that are out there for that particular item. So I've got my 3 different batches here using some different types of items that are there. And I've entered all of those with the Agility mobile forms in the various different ways. And here I'm going to go on ahead. I'm going to close my Agility mobile here, go back to the screen. And my next step is to open up Agility Explorer and start taking a look at my reporting to see how I did for my physical inventory. So I'm going to open up the Agility Explorer. And in here, under Inventory, I'm going to go on ahead and collapse all just to streamline the menu down. Inventory count is way at the bottom. Many times it's not something people do every day. So I'm going to open up my inventory item. You can see in here we've added a couple of new things. There is a history view now that allows you guys to go in here and look at the history tags that were posted. We have a cycle count code assignment update here, right? I'm going to go on ahead and open that really quick here. This is showing you all of your inventory. It's grouped by location here. And so you have all of your filters across the top here. If you wish to maybe group it or sort it or search on product category or items, you have all the ability here to do your filters across the top. And then you'll notice, just like any of the Agility grids, the cycle count code is bold, which says it's an edit field. So what we're allowing you to do is kind of easily group together, manage, look at your items for your cycle count codes, and just give you an easier way to manage that. You may have other processes that update that for you, but for some people that don't, it's an easy way that you can do that. I'm going to click on my cycle count code, and I'm going to sort them by that code so you can kind of see. I've got different codes in here for different items, and if I want to change any of those, I just simply come in here and maybe I'm going to update this because now I want a cycle count code of K, and it accepts anything, you know, that's a Macola field. It's a 1-digit field, so you can use it however. You see it move down here, it's K, and then the box is checked here. So when I have everything done and they're all checked and they have their new assignment, I just choose update count, and it's giving me a message. It's going to update whatever I have checked. and it's going to update that, and now that's been updated in your inventory location master file to BK. So that is out here for you to use to help a little bit. But then we also added here, we've got, we'll come back to this, there's an analysis here of your inventory accuracy. So we've got some, count to frozen variance, count dollars to frozen dollars here. We'll come back and take a look at this when we come back to this. But what we're going to do right now is they've just worked out, they've done all their physical inventory, or they're in process, but I want to take a look at it and see what is going on. So under my pre-post audit list and processing, we have a lot of different grids that you can take a look at. So the first one is, maybe I want to come in here and I'm going to take a look at my cycle count tag status. Where are they? I need to take a look at my batches. So I can do a lookup. Here's the 3 batches that I have created. You can see it shows me the location, the cycle count code, if you've got different ones for different locations in your different codes. If you're not using those, they won't have anything there. So here in my filter, I click OK, and I can see the status of all of my tags and the cycle count tag status. So here, these are all counted. Here I can see that my status is C. I can see here I have a keyboard one for a dock that's not counted. So does that need to be counted? I can see here that it's actually 0, so it may not need to be counted. It's something I'll have to handle a little bit differently at a point in time. But this gives me a status to tell me how's my count going, how's everybody doing, are we getting close to being done, whatever information you can get from this. So that's one of the screens. I then know that I'm done. I have this keyboard here, and it could be that I'm not going to count it. So I have a cycle count tags not counted. Mine's simple. I only have a few items on here. Yours probably isn't, and you'll have a lot of different items. So in here, I'm going to come in here, pull up my batches, and I can look at all of the tags. It will list everything that hasn't been counted. So it'll give me a quick, easy way to review everything that's still out there. And does it need to be handled or does it not need to be handled? If it's not going to get counted, I simply can check this box here and it will select them all, or I can pick and choose one by one. And then I can choose mark as counted, and it's going to update that tag record with a 0 quantity. So I don't have to go in there and enter those. So if I come back here to cycle count tag status and I hit my refresh button here, you can see that that keyboard now is marked as counted and it's marked with a 0 quantity. You'll notice here, I also have a quick view into my count variance, my quantity variances that are here. So that's one of them. But let's go take a look at some of our other variance reports. The next thing that I might want to take a look at after I've checked on my tags and I see how my tags are, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go to my pre-post audit by quantity variance. In here in my pre-post by quantity variance, again, I'm going to enter in my batch. So I'm going to put this particular batch in, and I can set my variance tolerance. So, and this is a quantity variance. So is it off by 1? Is it off by 5? Is it off by 100? Whatever that value is, you can enter it in here. I'm going to go on ahead and leave it at 0. I'm going to click OK. And here I'm going to see everything basically because I put in a 0 variance here. So these were the 4 items that were in my cycle count batch here. And I can see my cost. I have my count variance and my dollar variance. And then, of course, I can see this one does not have a variance. Here I'm up, here I'm down, what that variance is. Down here, you'll notice that if I click on each one of these, I can see down here, this is my tag detail. So in my tag detail of this one, you can see that my tag 650 here for bin number A25, I counted 990, and there wasn't any in that particular bin before. And this is probably oftentimes when you just start out bin, we created a general convert bin, and that everything was sitting out here at 991 in this particular convert bin. So there's a count quantity here, and there's a shortage of 990 here. So you can see the pluses and the minus. Now, let's say that you want somebody to go recount this and make sure that this is true. What you can do, you could tell them, but another thing that you'd have the option here is on any of these reports, we have the ability here to export this out to Excel. So you can come in here and you can export this main grid, or you can export this grid, whichever one happens to be the needed grid that you would want to maybe print out, give to somebody, say, go recount this. This is what was there, if that's what you want to do, to give them a physical piece of paper. But you're simply going to go on ahead and you would choose, like, maybe I'm going to send them out to go double check this, and I have my options to export it to Excel or PDF, or I could take it to text. I'm going to send it to PDF and click OK here. And I'm just going to click Save. I could give it a name. Oops. It doesn't like my PDF on my virtual. I don't think it likes Excel either, because I don't have it installed, but we're going to try. Whatever it is. And it is exporting that out. And if you have Excel, I don't have Excel on here. I could drop it off into my other machine, but it's going to open it up in Excel. It's going to look exactly like it does on the grid. You could print that out. You could save it, whatever you need to do with that. And so I'm not going to get it to open, but generally it pops up, and it would open that up in Excel. You could see that and then do whatever you need to with that in Excel. So this is our pre-post by quantity variance. You'll notice here that if I say that my variance has to be at least 1, I'm going to open up my filter here, and I'm going to put 1, and I click OK. You'll notice it got rid of the 0. If I make that 2, of course, it's going to get rid of the 1s here. So it's whatever threshold level I set there for what it is that I need to do to review for recounts or differences there. The next variance report that we have is we have a cost variance. So you have 2 ways to look at it. I can look at it by quantity, and I can look at it by cost. So I have the same thing for a cost variance. What is my tolerance level? I'm going to put 0 in here so we see everything. And I'm going to pull up my G batch. Now, I have multiple batches. If you have multiple batches, you are going to review this for all of your batches, not just this one batch. I'm going to click OK here. And we'll come back and look at those other batches here in a little bit here. But here is my cost variance. So I'm seeing basically the same kind of things. It's just my focus is now on dollar value instead of quantity. And it's a matter of one or the, and there is no right or wrong. It's whatever works for your particular company and which one, you like better or looks best or is a requirement for you. So I can see all of these, and I can see here that I have this variance here. I can see my tags, and I had 2,317. I only counted this. Maybe I want to do a little research as to what happened. Why am I short? I have the ability, of course, to drill down to my inventory transactions. So I'm on this particular item. I can click on inventory transactions. It's going to go pull up the audit records of inventory transactions for just that particular item. So I can scroll through here. This is the same as if you would be running the report in Macola, but very focused, very streamlined, and I can review and look at all of my transactions and see, maybe there's a reason in here that I can see of why my inventory is off. Did something go out that shouldn't? Did we make an extra transaction? Did someone, do something that they shouldn't have or should have? We don't know, and we just didn't get it recorded properly. But it makes it very easily to browse that. And of course, if this was a serialized or bin, I could drill into the bin transactions or into those particular serial transactions and drill down even further right from here. So that lets me do that. I can, of course, I have my subtotals down here of what my total variance is and my total count quantities here. I have the same thing down here in my detailed tags. So if I have multiple tags here, and of course I'm counting them, it sums all of that up down at the bottom. So I have that all by tag. So that's the pre-post by cost variance. Let's go take a look at the audit detail tag list. The audit detail tag list here is basically the same thing. And the purpose of this one is everybody wanted a list by, I want every single tag that I have in here. Because I need to print out a list, I need to keep it for audit purposes, I need to review everything at once. It is grouped, as you can see here, by the batch number. But again, the grouping is on, this is on. You can customize the layout. Maybe you don't want it grouped by batch. Maybe you just want everything there. You could very easily, remove the batch, take it out, have everything all at once, and you can see all of your batches here together and all of your totals down here together. That's up to you, and you would just save that particular layout and keep that for how you like to use it. But this is designed here for this audit to show all your tags in all your batches with totals by the batches and totals by the whole entire inventory count at the bottom to allow you to very easily, export this, keep track of this, and have all of that available at your fingertips, because you could export it, save it off, and have it there. So that's reviewing your tag status, and that is looking at your pre-post. So as you're looking at your pre-post, you decide if they need to go do a recount or they need to, go look at something again. You would send them out there. They could open it up by tag, and they could enter in any changes should they need to, or come back and verify it's right or whatever you need to be. And that would be that, they come in here, maybe open up the cycle count by tag. Maybe only a manager has this, because if they go on ahead and they enter in this different amount, and I'm going to be a manager, I don't have my scanner handy. I'm going to look at this and I want to adjust tag number 647. And it's telling me it's already counting. Continuing is going to overwrite the current count. So whatever I enter now is going to change my count quantity of 628 to whatever I enter. Maybe it is 627. Maybe it's 629. Whatever it is, it's going to make that update for me. So I would simply click OK, and then I would put in my 629 count. And now you'll notice if I come over here and I refresh my screen here, my count quantity, tag quantity changed to 629. So you can very easily get in there and edit your tags and fix them if you do a recount and you need to make a change to those particular tags. Okay, so those are your variance reports. Those are how you can review that in a very streamlined manner. Let's talk about, I'm going to digress here into serial and palletized. Not everybody has that, but I need to show you that because the steps are that you need to take care of that serial layer or pallet layer or both of those if you have them before you post in Macola. If you've reviewed everything and you're not serialized or palletized, your next step when you're ready after you've reviewed everything is that you would go post them in Macola. I'm going to take a look at my pallet layer first. So if I am palletized and I'm using the pallet management, down here I have a couple of extra pallet reports here. So I'm going to come down here and I have my pallet bin variance with the recount here to take a look at my pallet layer. So I'm going to bring up my batch that is a pallet batch, which happens to be P. I'm going to choose my pallet batch, and I can see here the items that are palletized here in my bins for each of these particular items here. So in bin 100 here, I have my packages here by bin. I can see this is my bin. I can see my tag number. I can see my license plate number, my pallet label. What it is a loaded item, so I can see the serial lot item, and I can see that my count quantity is 48, and there is no variance there. So everything is counted accurately. If I take a look at my pop away bin here, I can see all of my tags that are available here. I can see that I have counted 25, and I am actually short by 1. Hold on here. I don't have my quantity. I should be showing my frozen quantity there, but it's showing me that my count quantity is 25 and my count variance is a -1. So I am off there. If I take a look at my ship bin, same thing. I see all of my different tags. I see the license plate numbers for each particular pallet tag there. Here's my item and here's the serial number that's each, and I see the count quantity there, and I can see that I'm actually over. Now, if I wanted to send somebody out to recount that bin, I'm going to make somebody go out and I'm going to say, go recount the ship bin. I don't think this is right. What I can do is I can simply hit recount bin, and it's going to wipe out the pallet layer tags. It's going to wipe that tag out. It's going to take the pallet information out. It's going to set that tag those tags back to 0, and you would send somebody out to recount that ship bin because I just told them to go recount it. They have to go back out there. They're going to scan it just like they did the first time, and it's going to recount, and that is what's going to be in there. So that's just a matter of recounting the bin, and then I go out there and I recount that bin and do it again. And then I would simply refresh this, and I would be able to see what those different counts were that were there. So very easy to do as far as, forcing them to go take a look at it again. So that's how you can look at your pallet bin variance with recount. The next thing at the pallet level layer I need to look at is my pallet problems to review because I do have some things that are off. I'm going to pull up my batch. My batch here is my pallet batch, and this is going to show me all the different layers here that are off by each of the pallet ones. So I can see here that my pallet tag count is not equal to the pallet quantity. And I need to make adjustments to each of these to make sure that it's right for what it is so that when I go post the Macola tags, it adjusts them and makes my pallet layer equal with the tag layer of what I'm going to post in Macola. So I have a couple of options here. Here I can see that this is my tag entry, here's my item, this is my pallet label, and this is the serial lot here. So right now here, I have my tag count of 48. And of course down here, I can do an adjustment to make the pallet layer match what is in what I counted. So if I am good with this and somebody has done that particular count, what I can do is an adjustment to that particular pallet layer to make that be the same. And when I'm going to do that, and I know that that's right, I tell it to adjust that pallet layer, and it's going to adjust it to what the tag count is. And then that particular package or pallet will be ready to go on ahead and post to my inventory. I can do delete pallets. So if for some reason I have a pallet in here that it was part of it, but it didn't get counted, I can delete pallets here. I can also add a pallet. So if I need to, I was checked here, if I need to add a pallet, I can simply open up a pallet because I have another one. It does happen. And I can add a pallet here, give it my item, put in my bin, my lot number, click OK, and it will go create that another pallet if I need that additional pallet. So you have the ability here to reconcile your pallet layer to what your tags are counted. So in here, I'm going to go on ahead and I'm going to make these match my layers here. I'm going to check these and I'm going to tell them to adjust that pallet amount. And of course, it's telling me to be careful. Do you really want to do it? So we want to make sure you really want to do it. Hold on here. Let me do these one at a time. Gonna have to check that out. So I've adjusted my pallet layers, and now they match my tag counts. The pallet has been adjusted to what I've counted on my tag, and it has made an adjustment to that pallet layer. Again, all of these can be exported out with Excel. And once I am done with this pallet layer and I've adjusted all of my pallets, I can come down here into my cycle count posting. We add the layer of pallets and serials, so you need to post those before you post in Macola. If you posted in Macola and forget to post pallets or serial numbers, you have lost that. So I'm going to come in here to my pallet counts, and I'm going to bring up my batch that is palletized, and I'm going to select OK. And this is telling me that I have errors. So I would need to go in and fix those errors before that, but we're quickly running out of time. So what I need to do is I need to come in here and look at my pallet problems to review and go on ahead and check out where that's off. I would need to fix my pallet layers in here. I'm not sure why it's not popping up. I have test data. I would fix this, and then once these are all ready, my post button will light up, and then I need to select post for that to post my pallet layer and adjust all of that. And that would be the pallet layer. And then if I'm just doing pallets on top of Macola inventory, I then go post my Macola inventory batch. The same thing is true. Let's take a quick look at serial number here. I know we're bumping up against the end of the hour here. There is a serial problem to review. So let's take a look at this. I'm going to come back here to display and close all my menus here. We're getting a little cluttered. Serial problems to review. And I'm going to pull up my serialized batch here. And I'm going to click OK. And so when I was scanning that particular item, what I did is, these are my problems to review. This is, I scanned this particular item and it wasn't in my serial lot layer in Macola. So it's telling me this guy does not exist in your serial lot layer, and I'm going to add it in. So lots of times you can also do this to bring in your serial layer level too if you currently didn't have them in Macola for whatever reason. So it's giving me a warning. It's going to be added. This one I did not count. It is in my serial lot file. So if I went and looked this up in Macola or in Agility, I would see this 05 serial number, and it doesn't exist. So here it's telling me it's going to be deleted from the system. So it's giving me all that warning. And if I need to go double check this, fix this, whatever it is, I need to go do that quick and make sure that that's correct. Here is my serial variance by tag. Whoops, let me get the right batch number in here. Serial variance by tag. And here I can see each of my items. I can see the bin numbers that they are in. And if I take a look at each of these, I can see that this is the only one that I happen to have any inventory in. So here's a tag for each of these. And I am going to go on ahead and make sure these are all correct. These are what I counted. And I could do the same thing. I can do a recount where I can wipe out all the serial numbers. I can wipe out that tag and I can make them go recount. So if there's issues here and I need them to do it again, I can wipe it out, dump that serial tag, and they'll go recount it again. And once I have that, I'm going to, and I'm good with all of my serial number layers, I'm going to go into my serial numbers to post here. And I will open up my serial post. I'm going to click OK. And now in here, this is telling me exactly what it's going to do to my serial lot layer. It's going to add this one. These are all good. It's keeping them. And it's going to delete this in and adjust my serial layer. So when I have all of that, I simply click Post Tags. And you would see that that would be, I'm going to go to the item master here really quick for this item. So in my item master, I'm drilling into that, and I'm going to go down to my location here and open that up. And I'm going to see, look at my serial lot layer here. And you can see that I currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 is there, and we didn't count it. And so it's going to get deleted. 0, 0 is not there, and it will get added. So I'm going to go on ahead and I'm going to close this down. We're going to pop back over here to my posting screen here. So I'm on my serial lot number to be posted. I'm going to click my post tags. Am I sure? Yes, I am. And it's going to adjust my serial lot layer in Macola. So now if I come in here and I go into my item master and I pop that up, and it does write all this information to your audit information, of course. I'm going to open up my serial lot layer, and you can see that it has now added 0, 0, and it has removed 05. So now when I go post my count in Macola, it is going to, I have 5, it would be whatever quantity it is, but my serial lot layer has been corrected also, or my serial layer, I should say. So that is there. And my next step is if I have serial or pallet, do them first. And then if I don't, all of them, everybody is ready to go into Macola. So your next step is going to be that you're going to go into your Macola and you are going to do your cycle count post and post each of your batches. So you would do your pre-post, and then you would do your post, and that is the cycle count post and how Agility can help you streamline with your entry and your reporting tools. So next, I know we have a few questions out here, and so we are going to open it up and talk about any questions that we have. Jim, do you have anything out there that we have for questions?
Yes, we have a couple questions. So the first one is, what is the impact of checking or not checking the frozen quantity flag when you're setting up the count batch in Macola?
Well, when you're in Macola uses that frozen, whether it uses frozen, how it looks at the transactions when it goes to post. So if you're using frozen quantity, it looks at that frozen date, stamp, and time, and in theory, then if you did transact things, it's supposed to adjust it accordingly. If you don't use the frozen quantity, then it looks to the inventory transactions based on like your last receipt date, and Macola posting adjusts it to them. For us, for our entry and our variance reports, it doesn't really have any, it doesn't impact your streamline entry of your tags, and it doesn't impact your reporting. It's just a matter of how the Macola post works for how you do that. And again, it's really a matter of a best practice when you are doing a count is that you're not transacting those particular items that you're counting at that time. But every company, does their own thing, and that's up to you. But that's just kind of a best practice, and that's the impact of that. So technically for WiSys, there really is an impact other than we're just suggesting the best practices for an inventory count. When you use our stuff, lots of people will ask those kind of questions, and that's what it is. Another question?
Okay. Yes. I've been told we can only have one count batch active at a given point in time. Why would that be?
I'm not sure why you would be told that. As you can see, I have 3 count batches active. I've created 3 batches. You can't have things that cross. So it could be that maybe when you were trying to create multiple batches that there is something that would cross that batch. I do know once you start counting, I think you have to create in Macola, you have to go create all of your batches first before you start counting. I think once you start counting, I don't think you can create more batches, but that's kind of a Macola thing, but that's what I believe correct from my Macola world long ago. Another question?
Okay. Yes, we have, I thought the handheld was supposed to direct the cycle counter to go count the specific bin. What you demonstrated shows that the operator has to know what bin to count. Is this right?
Well, it's not that it couldn't be tailored to direct you. We have done that for many different people where it will just pull up that next bin in a particular batch. The standard out of the box, it doesn't direct you, but we have done multiple tailorings where it will count a bin and then it will pull up the next bin. Everybody does their cycle count, their counts a little bit different. In theory, if you're going in a warehouse and you have your racks in your warehouse and you're going to, do a cycle count and section that off, you're going to probably, send your people out there. They're going to walk to that area and they're going to start scanning the bin. So do they need directed picking? Maybe not. But if you want them to be directed picking that way, then you could tailor the particular form to bring up that next tag in the file and show you that tag. And then they would go walk to that bin and they would count that bin. So it can be. It's just not out of the box.
Okay. We've got a couple more that are coming in. when the employees are counting, can they switch tabs to do a bin lookup?
Yes, they can. And actually, my bad, because I didn't show you that. So when I'm doing this particular count here, let's see, I thought we had a bin lookup here. They can very easily on their closeout here. And you can see that I have the MLI view, the multi-level item view here. So they could, scan in any particular item that they want to look at. For instance, I'm going to type in my AWES. They would be scanning it. And then, of course, their location. This just happens to be a binned item, and they could look at their bins. So now I can see all the bins, and they would be doing this on their handheld. That button, in theory, could be added into a physical count form. You could move that button in it if they do that often, or they can close the form and open it, or it can be added right there so it just opens inside that form and then takes them right back without having to go in and out, but they can see the bins there. Also, of course, this is a lotted item, so if I choose that, I can also see on here the lot layer or serial layer if it was that too. So there's the applications that can show you, but there's also the button that you could add to that form. The issue is here, we could replace any of these buttons. There's a limitation today. That's going to change, but right now today, there's a limitation of 6 buttons, and so we would have to trade out a button. And you would have to tell us which one is easy to trade out. So maybe you don't need to go, a count tag actually just opens up the count by tag, which would let you do an edit right from this one to overwrite the one that you did, and then you close it and it takes you right back to the form. So you could have a bin lookup on there that would do the same thing. Okay, next question.
Okay, if you do not count all the bins within a batch, can you mark location as not counted and be able to post?
Yes. So, so when we went into the cycle count tags, I don't have any there because I already marked them. I don't think I set anything up to have them in any other bins. But basically here, this is my cycle count tags not counted. I don't have any in my batches because I did this a little bit earlier. You guys, everyone will get the recording that will be sent off to you here in a day. And so, I do have some. So here I have my tags not counted in this particular batch here. And I can simply, these are serialized. Yeah. In theory, I've got a serial lot layer issue, but this pops up all of the bins that aren't counted. These are serialized where I've messed up my serial layer here. And so here you would just check the box, mark not counted, and we popped into that screen where it changed it and marked it as a C counted, and it would do that for you and count those tags. And you can update, one at a time, or if you're convinced, or if you have to have somebody check you, or you can do them all at once. Okay.
Okay, next question is, there's a limitation with Macola when multiple tags are present for an item bin lot relationship during the posting process. Does WiSys allow for this scenario to occur in the current build?
Item bin lot layer. I guess what I would say on that is, I don't know who has the question, but we could look up that question, and I'm not sure quite what you mean by that or what the issue would be. But as you can see, we did, one of our items was a lotted item that had multiple bins with multiple lots, and we are able to enter in all of those tags and post those tags. So what we could do maybe is we could get together with you and kind of get maybe a little bit more detail and go into what's happening there. I'm not 100% sure what you mean in detail.
Okay.
Anything else?
Yes, there are a couple more coming in. Multiple batches worked for us until ES9.7. Now it is only one at a time. Which version of ES are you using?
I'm not. I don't have N10 loaded, but multiple batches have always been out there. 9636, so I don't have the most current on in my virtual here. But I guess I didn't realize that they would take away that ability to do that. I do have a more current Macola out there. I'll go double check that, and then maybe I can follow up with you, because I can't imagine they could take that away. That would, you wouldn't be able to do cycle counts with multiple batches. I'll double check that and make sure in my more current environment, and get back to you. You have another question?
Okay. Yep. We get errors if we have an item that is found in a bin that a tag wasn't created for. Does WiSys create bin records on the fly if there isn't one?
We do not. As we stated early in this presentation, it has the ability to do that, but we have stopped that creation. So it pops up and it gives the user a warning that says this bin is not part of the batch, and it does not allow that creation. The reason that we did that is because when the posting happens in Macola, we can't control that posting. And there are instances where customers have had some of those tags, not necessarily all, but some of those tags will then post incorrectly and mess up those quantities. And it doesn't matter if that extra tag for the bin that didn't exist was created in WiSys, or if you have somebody skilled who creates it in SQL. It is an issue that an extra tag that was created outside of Macola for a bin that was not in the batch has caused Macola posting problems. So because we have not been able to resolve that, we do disallow that in our current forms. That changed in 567. If you've used that and it works okay for you, then by all means we can turn that flag off. But currently right now, no, we do not. And that is because we don't control the posting, and we have seen where it has had issue.
Okay. Next question is, if I'm not using scanners, how do you enter the tag counts? Can you enter them in Macola and still use the agility reports to review the counts?
Yes, definitely. Even if you use them in Macola and you would like the streamlined reports that are in Macola here, these are in the standard product. So even if you just have the base Agility Explorer, reporting automation out of the box, you can use those reports are still there. You can pull them up and you can take a look at them. You could look at your serial tag history very easily in that grid. You could use that. If you don't have scanners, you can have a device license just like I did, and you can use Agility Mobile on the desktop. So if this application, pulling at this, is easier than entering them in the Macola application, or you want it here, you can do it on a desktop too. You could do it on a tablet. So if they had it on a tablet and you wanted to run it in tablet mode, they could open up Agility Mobile on a tablet with this particular form on there. If it's cellular per se or something like that, if you don't have a Wi-Fi warehouse, or you're in a location that doesn't have Wi-Fi, and you could use this application on a tablet. Next question.
Okay. Let me get to the next question. You can delete account batch in Macola if you need to abandon an account. Can you delete a batch from Agility as well?
You can't delete the batch from Agility. I mean, other than the fact that if you go into Macola, if you're going to delete a batch and start over, you go into Macola, you create the batch Macola, you can delete the batch in Macola, and of course it wipes out the batch and you would start over. We're just reading and interacting with Macola. So you still do, we don't have a batch delete in WiSys, so you would open up Macola and delete it there if you need to.
Okay, and can I add an item lot combination not in the cycle count batch to a bin with the same item?
To a bin with the same item. You could scan a lot that doesn't exist, just like we did with the serial number, and it would add that lot to your inventory. So if the item is there, the bin is there, but there's a lot there that wasn't there before, and you scan that lot number, yes, you can, and it's going to create that for that particular item bin lot combination.
And it looks like we've got some clarification on the physical count allows for 1 batch per location, and cycle count allows for multiple batches per location. And Kathy, I think you mentioned this, as long as there's different criteria being counted. So as long as your cycle count is multiple batches are counting different criteria, then you will be able to create multiple counts.
Yeah, that's.
And I think that covers the questions. And there are a few of you that we mentioned that we'd work with you directly on, but I think that covers all of the other questions.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. My email is on here. We also had Jim's up there earlier, too. If you think of any questions or you have something more that you would like to discuss or you have questions on, feel free to shoot me an email, or we can line up a phone call and we can talk about inventory if you're trying to get started, or if you have some issues or there's something that you want to look at a little bit more in depth. We'd be happy to help you. Appreciate it. Thank you.